Hi, this is Mary Jane from Hayes Sewing Machine Company in Wilmington, Delaware. And as part of our creative video series, I am going to talk about t-shirts. I know for some people that a t-shirt quilt can seem overwhelming. Having to bring all those t-shirts together and prep them seems crazy, and then you make it into a quilt. But there are a couple simple things that you can do to make the process a lot easier. And one thing that I really enjoy doing with t-shirts, and I do this as a gift all the time, is I make a little pillow out of the t-shirt. And I'm using sports fabric today, but really if your friend has a favorite band that they like or an event that they've participated in, everybody gets a free t-shirt these days. It's easy to take the t-shirt, make it into a very quick pillow, and it's a very personalized gift. So, let me talk to you today about prepping those t-shirts for sewing them into a pillow or a quilt. Again, I seem to be on a sports theme.
I say it looks like it.
I know. So today I'm going to take a t-shirt that I have, and a lot of times I will follow a lot of her prep tips in this. Eleanor Burns, I guess she's like the queen of t-shirt quilts. This pattern's been around forever, but it's very helpful, and we do have it in the store if you would like to look at making a complete shirt. But I always refer to this as far as prepping the t-shirts too if I'm going to make a simple pillow. The other thing is we do have a t-shirt quilt class. So you can bring 12 to 15 shirts in, and we will show you how to make a t-shirt quilt. The first thing that you need to do is determine the size of the graphic on the t-shirt. Now, usually they are about 11.5 by 11.5. And I'm thinking someone probably knows this out there, but that's the size that the press must be. Because typically in my 12.5 by 12.5 ruler, you will see that the
that works
t-shirt,
really well.
Yes. And it's got about an inch on the top and the bottom. And that is enough for a seam allowance. But the first thing I do is cut it down to size, because as many people know, when you're dealing with t-shirts, especially if they're old or laundered, there is a lot of wonk. So the first step I do is I cut it much bigger than the size that I'm kind of aiming towards. So you take the scissors. This sometimes is the hardest part for people. They think, oh, I can't cut my shirt. I can't cut my shirt. But you can. Yes. So I want to go, like I'm saying, much bigger than what the graphic is. And you can tell already as I'm cutting this that the corners are starting to fold up. Is that what I want to say? Roll up?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. I have cut my shirt out. And now I have rags for the rag pile. I will closely trim the neckline off, because a lot of times this space is much more narrower, and you have to be aware of that for your seam allowance. Now let's say I have a shirt like this. I want to include it, but it has a V-neck. You have a couple options. You can cut the shirt as I just did. Then you can take an extra piece of the shirting and you can sew. So let's say I take a piece that I cut off at the bottom, bring it up here, put it behind the neckline, and sew around the neckline so that you have a plain looking top to your shirt, but you can still include it. So if you have these scoop necks or you have a V-neck, I've even seen people do it if they want to include something that's more of like a 3/4 zip. They will zip it up and then tack it down. It's pretty cute. So that's just a tip if you have some irregular neckline shirts. So back to this. So now I have, I'm going to trim around the neck as I suggested. So let me take that collar off. Okay. Now this is the real game changer on a t-shirt quilt. This is 906 fusible sheer weight interfacing. This helps all the magic happen. So I take a piece of this, I cut it roughly the size of my t-shirt. We are not getting in the weeds here. We're not quilting, we're just kind of stabilizing. Cut it out. And then I take it over to my iron. Is it easier if I sit?
No, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay. A few things. This is a fusible interfacing, which is great. I use it all the time. However, in order to get this glue to activate, you absolutely need to have some heat there for more than a moment. This isn't a fast iron. This is a press, press, press. Often, and especially with older t-shirts, or sometimes these t-shirts that people are doing on on the new cutters, a lot of times you'll find them. That's obviously what this was done on. The applique might be a little brittle. So I always recommend a pressing cloth. You almost must use a pressing cloth when you're ironing on a t-shirt. We have ones that are specifically designed for t-shirts, and they work really well. I would stay away from a pillowcase on this. I find that I get a much better result with a pressing cloth. And for my first go around, I always try to press from the back. And I don't press right on the interfacing. I put my pressing cloth down and I press. Like I said, this is not a fast press. Okay. That feels pretty good. Coming up here. Smoothing out my t-shirt so it doesn't get all caught. Back to this. Sometimes you'll have a thicker t-shirt. Sometimes they're super heavy, in which case I would take the time at this point, oops, see I didn't get that there, to do both sides. So I might flip it over. Make sure I have my pressing cloth. As long as I have the pressing cloth on, I don't have a problem going over the decal.
But as soon as you forget.
As soon as you forget, bad things happen. Okay, so now I have my stabilized shirt. I'm going to take my ruler. I am going to size it up again. Sometimes they're not centered on the shirt, so I'm not necessarily using the neckline. I'm really using the grids in the ruler. So I'm 1.5 inches here. I'm a little better there. So now I'm like 1 inch and a some, 1 inch and 1.5 inches and a some. And then this is 1.25 inches. I'm gonna move it down a hair so that I'm a little closer to 1 inch. And then my eagle's face is down there. Okay, now I'm ready to cut.
What size ruler are you working with?
This one is a 12.5 by 12.5, which I find that 11.5 by 11.5 is typically the size of decals.
So it's a nice little gap all the way around.
Yes. Of course, there are exceptions, and some of these square rulers they make as large as 16.5 by 16.5.
So if you work with like extra
Yeah.
large.
Once I have it cut out, I take it back over and I press again, and I make sure that I have gotten a good seal all the way around and on my edges. Because next I'm going to want to sew it into something, and I want this to be as stabilized as possible. So if you come over here, you'll notice that normal t-shirt, a lot of wonk. I'm stretching all the way, all the way. I've got the stabilizer on. I'm really only going a very little bit. And actually this way I don't have any stretch at all. So that makes it nice and taut for when I want to put it into a project. And for this project, I will complete it with this cute backing.
Go Philly. Actually, go Eagles. But
Yeah, this
our
is
Philly
really,
team.
Yeah. Stephanie is the queen of pillows. She has a great pillow class, and she did a pillow video that is part of this creative series. I am going to ask Patricia to put the link for that video in the description of this video, so that way if you want to continue on and make yourself a pillow, you will have it right at your fingertips.